So our next speaker, I believe, is ready. He is a professor at the Swedish Defence University, and he will be addressing the challenge of these creeping crises that we're talking about, the slow-moving threats that can suddenly erupt or disrupt our societies. Keep your questions coming. There will be time for just a few after this presentation, and please welcome Magnus Ekengren.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure. It's an honor to be here. And I would like, as a professor, I always begin with some exercises and questions. So I will start with this one. And I have two questions to you. Don't shout it out, your answers. Keep it for yourself, and we have a question and answering after. I have two questions. What kind of creeping crisis will this video clip illustrate? That's the first. The second question is, at what date do you think the Swedish government declared acute crisis? That's my two questions. Okay. You have the dates up there. Okay. What is the crisis, the creeping crisis? COVID-19, 2020. At what date did the Swedish government declare acute crisis, national crisis? Exact. I want an exact date. Now, April, okay. More guesses?
10th of March.
Yeah. You're very close. Your 10th of March is very close, I would say.
15th of March.
No.
8.
No.
4.
No. 11. How many of you think it was too late to declare crisis? The 11th of March. Acute crisis, national crisis. How many? Come on. Okay, half of it, half of the group. This is my introduction, and I wanted with this short video clip show what we mean by creeping crisis, and why do we introduce a new concept? You have all dealt with risk analysis, vulnerability. We have a lot of concepts in this field. I think we wanted to introduce this concept of creeping crisis for making it a little bit more to push our policymakers, our decision makers, a little bit towards action. Because we have already lived with the risk concepts. All cities, in Sweden at least, I think in Finland, need to do the risk analysis, vulnerability analysis. And we wanted to turn the causality the other way around. A policymaker, elected politician, you are excluded from these people that I'm talking about. They always can take the risk, the chance during their mandate that nothing will happen and not invest enough resources in the risk area. They do the risk analysis and they think, no, I don't really have to put so much money into this because I need to put it on care, school, elderly homes, and so on and so forth. We wanted to turn it the other way around. If you don't do anything, it will happen. Creeping crisis will lead to acute crisis if you don't act. So it's a way to play around a little bit with the causality circle there. That's why we introduced it. And also another reason why we introduced this concept is that, I mean, the young generation has already redefined the crisis concept. Crisis concept for all old farts like me, it was like crisis began, a clear beginning, it has a duration and a clear ending. And then we learn something from it. The Greta Thunberg generation and the ordinary speak, crisis is permanent now. Climate crisis. Unclear beginning, unclear ending. We are living in crisis with no clear ending and beginning. And we thought, can we do science out of it? Why do global warming, pandemics, and cyber threats and artificial intelligence become creeping crises? Something I will talk a little bit about, and how to stop it. And future-proof, as you so intelligently describe it in your program, of our urban and rural areas. What is a creeping crisis then? Coming back to the pandemic, we saw it coming. We had the facts early. We had already signals, warning signals from the Taiwanese and South Korean public health agencies December 2019. A lot of facts, a lot of diagrams were with us already in the beginning of 2020. COVID in Italy going up early February. But we acted too late. We have the knowledge, but we don't act. That's a little bit the basis of the creeping crisis. And here's those of you who raised their hands, you're on the right side, I would say, at least when you come to the Swedish evaluations. We had 10th and 11th of March, a creeping crisis turned into acute crisis. Yeah, 10th was right also. Then there was a societal spread was declared by the Prime Minister. We had a mitigation strategy by the Public Health Agency. We had the first COVID-19 fatality in Jönköping. And we had the decision to limit public gatherings to 500 people. And the verdict has been harsh. It was too late. Many measures were taken too late. So we define creeping crisis as a threat to widely shared societal values or life-sustaining systems that evolves over time and space, is foreshadowed by precursor events, subjects to varying degrees of political or societal attention, and impartially or insufficiently addressed by authorities. And you have all this stuff, the book we wrote about 8 creeping crises, and the articles are all open access. It's just to load them down if you want to read more about them. And we brought up these, we have written about these crises so far: global warming, spread of multi-resistant bacteria, cyber threats, migration, big data, artificial intelligence, the threats to personal integrity. And in other words, creeping crisis is this gradual, low-intensity, incremental societal disruption culminating in a sudden major outbreak. And one article, as you saw, we called Hiding in Plain Sight. If you think about it, it's a little bit philosophical. It's actually a restaurant in Amsterdam is called the same, so we picked it up. Hiding in plain sight. We see it coming, but we are not ready to act. So how can we come to terms with it? Why did the pandemic become a creeping crisis? We asked the medical doctors, the epidemiological doctors, the regional doctors out throughout Sweden, and they said we were surprised by the velocity, the speed of which this pandemic came to us. We couldn't imagine how fast it could come to Sweden. I didn't realize it could come to Sweden until it was inside my hospital. So it seems that you need it to be on your skin in order to realize that you should act. There's something wrong here. And of course, we can't live like this any longer. We have to do something. We had an interview with Magnus Ekengren just 1 year after the outbreak. And when did you realize COVID-19 was serious? This is our state epidemiologist who became a little bit world famous because of his reluctance to take action. No, we can discuss that. I'm not so critical. And he said, it was probably when we saw the video clips from Italy. This should start us think. We already had the facts, the scientific facts. But even he says it was not until I saw the video clips. What does it tell us? Emotion. Science, I should be self-critical. What kind of science, what kind of facts and figures do we produce if they are not triggering action? In China, they seemed to manage to spread rather well, and that gave us hope that the virus was manageable. This hope was extinguished when we saw how it was in Italy. We then understood that the virus had a strong capacity to establish itself. And those of you from Sweden remember this clip from our news these days where the director of one of the main hospitals in Trento, northern Italy, looked the Swedish viewers into their eyes and said, this could be very serious. This could be very serious. I think you remember it. And there was a reporter walking around at this North Italian hospital. So the core of creeping crisis, and I come back to what the minister said, mental resilience, to me, has a lot to do with the weak imagination capacity. Scientific facts do not evoke the degree of emotional or time-space understanding of the local consequences of the threat that is necessary for timely action. So how to stop it? How do we strengthen the imagination capacity? Lahti has done it. But are there some general directions we can take? It's to strengthen imagination capacity, I would say, through strengthen our international institutions. I'm quite convinced that the Swedish authorities would have acted earlier in the pandemic if they would have had people on the spot in Wuhan, as the WHO had, as the European Union, ECDC had, and could really communicate the message that this is really serious. It's a really strange virus. But unfortunately, still our system, our national crisis systems are still very national. Our whole bureaucracy for national crisis management is really built in the national bubble. So we don't really get this, as we would say, emotional, as direct contact with the crisis where it starts, often, as the mayor has already explained, in other parts of the world, and then comes to us. So better contact with the place for its outbreak to raise or increase the imagination capacity. Here is a picture from Gävle. It's a town more or less the same size as Lahti, a little bit more than 100,000 in the north of my hometown, Uppsala. There was a big flooding in 2021. And this has really woken up, I would say, municipalities in Sweden. Because what it meant was the threat of global warming was made concrete. it's a really tough times now in Gävle. Everybody's suing each other. I mean, the municipality is suing the private insurance companies, and the private sectors is suing the municipality, and there's a lot of fights who should pay now for taking care of the damage. But what I'm saying, should we have to wait for this kind of damage in order to be able to make it concrete, in order to imagine what could happen to us all? We have to be. I mean, otherwise my profession cannot be justified. I mean, as a researcher, I would like us to think at least 5 to 10 years ahead to come up with the research that could help us to avoid that we need to live through the acute crisis of a creeping crisis in order to act. And of course, the experience from Ukraine, the same. We have a lot to learn from Ukraine. The exchange should be really mutual learning. What would it mean? How can we imagine what could happen to us? And what could we learn from Ukraine? I would say also that we have to think about new ways of cooperating, new ways of visualizing different crises, different creeping crises. Instead of facts and figures, a Cartesian tradition of everything is happening here, we need emotional and the feeling for time and space. That was the regional doctor was telling us. We couldn't imagine. We had the figures from Wuhan. We had the figures from Italy. We didn't act. So here we see we are entering into a new post-Cartesian world in a way. You have all been to charter trips to Canary Islands, or would probably be to Budapest. And the way we are now getting used to more moving three-dimensional maps of the world. I think this is it's a good step forward for also how we could picture or illustrate creeping crisis. We have to cooperate maybe as researchers more with artists, fiction writers, other sectors of society in order to strengthen our imagination capacity. Here is to Birgit and Bergström, two Swedish artists who are covering, I think, the south top of Kebnekaise to protect it from the sun melting down the ice. And of course, it's very striking. He wants to make you act. Exchanges, more exchanges, to have people. I'm also pretty sure that if the Swedish Public Health Agency had Italian colleagues working, running in the corridors at the time in February, they would have acted. Exchange, international exchange, I think is key. I had another interesting example from 2004, after the tsunami in Thailand. The exchange was so bad that the Swedish, I would say, and I think many people would agree, if the Swedish authorities just had one phone call from the Italian colleagues in 2004, many of you are too young to remember, but 550 Swedish citizens died. But if you had just one phone call from Italian experts early in the crisis, telling us this could be very serious. Because the Italians had the experience from Etna, Vesuvius, and tsunamis. And they brought home their Italian citizens in a couple of days. So the international exchange is key here. And to institutionalize it, I would say. it can happen also here. I think that's the biggest mental barrier we have in the Nordic area. We don't think it can happen here. But to turn it to the positive note, it should happen here, as the mayor is saying. We are in historical transformation from the agrarian, industrial, sustainable society, and Lahti is leading us. The Chicago of Finland, meat and lumbers. We have to think about what could the future of Lahti be? Maybe the Bengaluru of Finland, the AI cyber center. You think, we have to think visionary here. And this could be the names of your city streets here in Lahti. Street Chittilappi. These are the heads of the big shots in Bengaluru. Who is the center? Even competing with San Francisco, Los Angeles, and the California. But you took it already, the European Green Capital, sustainability. So you are already ahead. But I think what I'm coming to is we should really, in order to strengthen our imagination capacity to compare our experiences, as the mayor is saying, as the minister is saying, compare it, model cities in different areas. Because it doesn't matter what a crazy professor from Stockholm is going to tell you, you have to do this and this and this, is when you are exchanging experiences with your counterparts in other cities that you really will start acting. And I think that's the best way to strengthen capacity, imagination capacity. So the greening of cities, Schöna was the first town in Europe who had all this electricity from solar cells. And Gothenburg is very good in doing, the biggest harbor in the Nordic area, is very good in doing scenarios and visualizations of what could happen to Gothenburg, but also what should happen. Here is, I don't know if you have it in Finland, we have a rating among the Swedish municipalities every other year. The 2025 rating just came out when it comes to climate change adaptation. These were the top municipalities 2023, Norrköping, Arvika, Lomma, Helsingborg, Danderyd, Kristianstad, Göteborg. And we tried to figure out what really made them act to come so high. We have 290 municipalities in Sweden, but these were the top ones. Norrköping, top. There we found out one of the reasons why they acted early. They had not experienced any major crisis due to climate change, but it was that they were very, very closely working with the university, Linköping, even inviting researchers to work within the municipality, in the administration, doing the planning documents together. They called it co-research. So they wrote the reports together, the civil servants and the scientists. We have very close cooperation with the Swedish Meteorological Institute, Arvika, to avoid flooding. Of course, visionary leaders came up, like the mayor here, as a key factor. The ones who were really, often was people who had a natural science background, but then took a job within the municipality and could be there on a regular basis to say, have you thought about this? Have you in a budget now? Because the budget issue was very key to success. Often we saw in some municipalities, climate change come last in the program and was not really given resources. So we have to think about the climate. But the ones who were really up there, they were the ones who had put an annual post devoted to climate change. So it was like small bureaucratic not small, a budget is important, but things like that we looked for. Kept crisis history alive was very important too. Here, many of you have probably seen this, but front-runner city developments or have this urban insight. The Sweco has developed this in order to find out which cities who have shown their shown best success in the different areas. And for me, I mean, it's so obvious what the Nord Regio Forum is for. As we already heard from the minister and the mayor, to exchange, and from the director, exchange experiences. Here is a report we wrote, Så stoppa smyga, to stop creeping crisis from exploding in acute societal crisis. And there's a little bit of a summary of what I've already said. Cooperation with colleagues who have experienced acute outbreaks of creeping crisis. See adaptation as experiment, accept and forgive failure. I think a culture of forgiveness is good because we don't know really what works many times. We have to be allowing for experimenting. And I think it's tough in times of budget cuts and so on and so forth. But I think it's very important. So summary. To stop the creepy crisis but strengthen our imagination capacity international institutions. And the question to you is, what is a creeping crisis for you? How can we strengthen your imagination capacity for proactive prevention of crisis of future-proofing of our society? How can we strengthen the Nordic, European international institutions? How can we strengthen Nord Regio's role? I mean, I'm coming to the organization that really should be spot on for what I've said. More money to Nord Regio for more exchanges among the municipalities. No, I'm serious. I was serious all the time.
Yeah, you were serious all the time. You were serious all the time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. There's a question that came in from you for you from the audience, which actually touched on one of the images you showed. So what do you see as the role of culture in strengthening imagination capacity? You had the picture of Kebnekaise that was covered in yellow. Do you see culture playing a more central role?
Yes, I think so. I mean, we all know, for our imagination capacity, why do we read fictional books? It's to strengthen our imagination. We can imagine. Of course, there's an important balance. If you come to fictional writing, or if you come to movies too, this delicate balance between science fiction and too fearful scenarios that are not taken seriously, and some kind of scenarios that brings to your heart that this could really happen. I mean, that's always but it has to be done in a smart way. This kind of fictional descriptions of what could happen.
But isn't there also in what you're saying about about increasing the imagination capacity a risk of panic? Some would say, let's not move into panic. Let's not walk around being devastated and anxious about what could happen. Let's not,
Isn't it this is very Nordic attitude?
Well, I am very Nordic. Can't help it.
No, but that was what we heard during the pandemic, that the Public Health Agency didn't want to go out too hard in the beginning because it could lead to panic. But then I would say it was just a matter of finding the right way of communicating instead of being blamed for acting too slowly. I mean, then we have to solve the way of communicating. It can happen here. I mean, it's devastating if our institutions would tell us, no time for worries. Don't take it easy. It will not happen here. And then it happened here. We're going to blame the policymakers for not doing it. So I think the mayor is absolutely right. The right way of communicating. And we have, unfortunately, in the Nordic region, we have to get used to the fact that it can happen here. We have been warded off for quite a long time.
So it's a question also of communicating honestly and credibly, I would say.
On long term, you can't start. It's a matter of education, you would say, as the mayor was saying.
Yeah, that was what we had time for. Thank you so much for speaking to us this morning. And we have consumed a bit of your coffee break, so it's now a 20-minute coffee break you have to go out to where you came in, have a quick coffee, come back. We pick up here at 11:40. See you then.